This is the Ford Kuga, and it's the ST Line X version of it, and this particular car is a plug-in hybrid version, but you don't have to get one of them if you don't want. However, if your budget can stretch to it, I'd highly recommend it, because this car, well, Ford say it'll do just under 60 kilometers on a full charge. I've seen it do almost 70 kilometers on a full charge, so it actually goes above and beyond. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem like this car is as popular on Irish roads as something like the Skoda Kodiaq, the Peugeot 5008 and 3008. But I'm going to show in this video that it's actually well able to put it up to the best of them. So on this version now, bearing in mind it is the ST Line X model, so you've got optional paint, that's €1,000. The wheels do look huge, but they're actually only 18-inch wheels. It's because the tyres are so big, which provide comfort over style. This car also has a pack that's about €1,700 that will give you blind spot and guards on the doors. Very clever the way they pop out, and they keep the doors from not hitting off walls, because you know how eager kids are to get out of the car after a long journey. It's got some gadgets inside that you just don't really get in a lot of cars. Keyless also comes on this model of it, blind spot in your mirrors, and rear parking sensors in the back, 2 actual exhausts. They go somewhere. If you go for the rear camera, there's a little washer for the lens on it. I have never seen that in a car before. Now this, it's kind of just got a tinny sound to it. It's not solid like some of the German stuff. The boot, if you go for the PHEV version, is compromised a little bit. You're going to lose about 25 litres. But it's still a smaller boot than something like the Kodiaq, and despite the fact that this isn't a 7-seater, you might expect the boot to be a little bit bigger. They have got some extra tricks on how you can make the boot a little bit larger, and I'll show you that in a second. A little bit of storage down here for cables if you have the PHEV version of it. I love the little handles that can throw the seats forward. Just means you're not running around the car like a lunatic. You got 12 volts, you got lights, they're white and bright, and yeah, it's a good boot, but just a little bit smaller. This car doesn't have the parcel shelf, because I don't know what someone has done with it, but it's a kind of an elasticated one, which again is helpful if you've got bikes, buggies and stuff. You're not trying to squish everything down. The parcel shelf will kind of just groove over everything you have in the back. Just because this is a PHEV, a plug-in hybrid version of the car, let me just discuss. It's a 14 kilowatt hour battery. Your charging port is here. You get a granny plug, that's a 3-pin cable that you can charge to any wall socket, and then you get this Type 2 cable which will go to a wall box or any type of public on-street charging. One end goes into your charger, one end to the car. Obviously, very simply clicks in there. It'll take 3.5 hours to charge using a 7.2 kilowatt wall box. If you're using a 3-pin plug, it's going to take 6 hours. But you'll probably be at home for a lot more often that 6 hours than you think. And then you just plug it in, and you can set up the device that it'll time whenever you like, or you can set it to be ready in the morning. Any of that stuff, you can do it from the dashboard. The back of the car is where you might go, okay, I see why the boot's a little bit smaller than maybe the rest of the competition, because it affords you a lot more leg room up here. If you're only going to be having 2 passengers on either side, obviously you can just throw down your armrest, although it does sit at a kind of weird angle. They give you a 3-pin plug back here. There's little bars under the 2 seat and the individual seat on that side, and you can adjust how far forward these seats go, so it gives you more options in the boot. There's also a handle here that I can recline the seat back, so if you did have an adult on longer journeys and you did need your boot space, you've all this leg room and all this kind of upright sitting position, and you can properly recline back here. So if you need more space here over more space in the boot, then the Kuga really actually, I think it's probably best in class, because there's so much room in here. You don't get something to charge devices with apart from the plug, obviously, so there's no USBs in the back. Head height is massively big. This doesn't have the optional glass roof. That would probably encroach a little bit. And generally the quality stuff is good. There's kind of textured plastic here, decent. I mean, it's high quality plastics, but it's not particularly soft and stuff like this. You've got a couple of pockets at the back of the seats also, and even though this has the B&O sound system, your little tweeters back here, I'd love if they had like a little logo on them or something, just to kind of just say, hey, look, I'm after speccing the extra more expensive sound system. It should probably show off in the back, but you wouldn't really know. to look at it back here. So all the individual space here is very, very good. The doors open really wide for getting in car seats. Not quite as good as something like the new Nissan Qashqai or the Honda CR-V. If you'd like to check out the review of the Qashqai, it's up here. And I'll also leave links at the end of this video to the Volkswagen Tiguan and also the Peugeot 3008 and PHEV version of the 3008 if you'd like to have a look at those videos too. Up front, armrest is quite deep. There's a little shelf here that makes things a bit easier to store stuff, and there's other little areas that you can leave things down, a phone. You get wireless charging. As far as I know, across all models of the Kuga, which is very good. Slot your phone in there, nice little groove for it, starts charging. You do have the option of USB and USB-C, so there's two options, very future-proofed up here. There's physical buttons for climate control, dual zone. You can control, I love the way Ford do this, there's 3 levels of auto, so it's always an auto if you want, but you have just 3 levels of intensity and you don't need to go behind menus to do it. Now, the screen is a little bit smaller than a lot of the competition, but it does work very well. And maybe you don't like big, huge screens, it does look stuck on, but things like Siri that you can activate through your phone through this. Hey Siri, what is the weather for today, please?
It's currently cloudy and 14 degrees. Expect cloudy skies starting early in the morning, and rain tonight with mixed conditions for the rest of the day. Temperatures are heading down from 15 degrees to 12 tonight.
Very detailed. Works every single time. And you can integrate that with the nav to bring you places. So that's also best in class. What isn't best in class is the carbon fibre trim. A little bit weird, okay? Glove box, not great size. I do like the upgraded instrument where you can tweak things, move things, flick between EV mode, partial EV mode. You can save some of the battery for later. You can drive in pure EV mode. It's really well set up. The tech pack is a full quad headlight setup. It also gets you the heads-up display, but it's over £2,000. It's a lot of money. And it isn't even a full-on heads-up display because it needs a little pop-up screen to do it, so it's not actually directed on to the windscreen. And this is the ST line version, so ST steering wheel, ST seats, a little bit of Alcantara, not too sure about that. Jog wheel for your gear selector, and then you can flick between terrain modes as well that is in this, and there's auto parking and all that stuff, and 2 different size cup holders down here. So when you add in kind of everything you need for a family, it really ticks a lot of boxes. Oh, and when you are using nav on the screen, it's quite fast to move, you know, it's not laggy. But again, the screen is a little bit smaller than what you might be expecting. So this particular plug-in hybrid version is a 2.5 Duratec plug-in hybrid engine. It pushes out a combined 225 brake horsepower. But to do that and to achieve the really low claimed economy of 200 miles per gallon, you're going to have to charge it all the time. And for example, here in Ireland, that's 19 cent kilowatt hour. Multiply that by 14 and that will tell you how much it'll cost you to charge your car. A little over €2. But you won't be going to the petrol station anywhere near as often if you do that all the time. If you do all that charging, it means your fuel economy in terms of litres per 100 kilometres is going to be anywhere between sort of 2 and 4. Now you can charge this car, charge the battery from the petrol engine. Do that and it hammers the juice, like 30 litres per 100 kilometres, maybe even mid-30s is what I saw when I did it. I was just testing it out, but it did charge relatively quickly. In a couple of minutes I'd put 4 kilometers into the battery, and if you did for, I don't know, for whatever reason, let's say you were facing a congestion charge or you wanted to just drive by a school and not be pumping out any sort of emissions whatsoever, you could charge that for later. But like, it is a false economy. You're charging the car to put it into the battery, and it just, you know, I wouldn't use that under very, very exceptional circumstances. There's not a huge amount of body roll in the car because generally Fords are set up from, you know, a driver enjoyment perspective. There is a kind of a weighted feeling, or it's like as if the steering wheel is constantly trying to center back. Now I'm actually even used to it after a few days of driving this car, but certainly when I jumped into it at the start, I was like, that's really annoying, it's weird. it's like someone's nearly pulling in the opposite direction to when you steer the car. Now, some of the safety features are very impressive because they can actually help you swerve around an obstacle that things you haven't seen. It will also assist with emergency braking and that, and you can get rear traffic cross monitoring, all that stuff that makes cars just safer to drive, and it prevents the smaller accidents, the ones that you go, how did I even do that? There's a lot of safety stuff on board to help out with that. Visibility and seating position as you want from a crossover is high up and decent. The A-pillars over the front, they're a little bit chunky, alright. They might prevent a little bit of visibility on the odd occasion. Equally, you know, there's pillars in the back of the car and they're also quite large, but thankfully the camera aids that are on board really kind of, they sort that out, and it's I can't say it's much of a problem really. It is a CVT gearbox. I can't really say I hear any huge amounts of strain when I'm driving it, and I'm not always, as a lot of people who drive cars and chat about them are never really massive fans of CVT gearboxes, but I can't be overly critical with it. It's smooth, doesn't sound harsh, even when the car didn't have any battery range in it and just the petrol engine was at work, it sounded okay. It's kind of a relaxing, smooth, quiet place to sit. Now, you will notice I've no kids in the back of this car when I say that, and obviously the more they're in it, the more stressful certain drives can become. But certainly the car will do all it can to give you a stress-free and calm driving environment. Another thing to bear in mind is batteries add weight, so compared to a diesel or petrol version of the Kuga, the handling will be a little bit compromised. It'll probably shoot wide a little bit on corners, but again, I can't say many people are going to be buying this car for driving dynamics being right up the list of priorities. It's going to be, what's the boot like? Can I get them in the back? Has it got enough looks to keep me happy? And you know, how practical is the car? So if they are the priorities, as I would assume they are, then the Kuga really is very, very good. So for your family, would I recommend the Ford Kuga? Absolutely. It starts at €33,000, not for the PHEV version, not for the ST Line X version, all that has to be said. But it's in and around the starting price of a lot of cars its size. I'd put it up against the Mazda CX-5 in a heartbeat, maybe the Kodiaq, but again, if you need the 7 seats, then there isn't a 7-seater option in this. You'll have to go to the S-Max and stuff, other options in the Ford range. But like I said earlier on the video, this can do everything the others can. I just don't know why people don't seem to notice it as much, maybe, compared to some of the German stuff. But for a family of 4, maybe 5, this will do it all. Thanks for watching.